All right, how can we not begin with this? And not because I'm in the background of the video. You can see right there, that's me standing in the blue shirt. That's Demarcus Robinson's helmet. Here's Brock Purdy. Here, we can roll it. This is from the 49ers. They do such a great job. Make sure to give them a follow. They have all the practice footage after. Purdy, the best deep pass that he's thrown so far of camp, hits Jordan Watkins. One more time, just because this was really pretty. I mean, I led my entire article up on the San Francisco Standard with this. In stride, 50 plus yards downfield to Jordan Watkins. The article can be found right here. So go check it out. Brock Purdy may have a new deep threat. 49ers rookie wide receiver Jordan Watkins. It's all up there for you. This is your 49ers Intel, where we have some news on this beautiful Tuesday evening. The news is that Spencer Burford has a new contract. Same length. He's still only under contract for this year, but the 49ers modified his contract to include more guaranteed money, but it's actually going to be cheaper against the salary cap. So I could get this one open for everybody so I can explain. This is a little bit more complex because the proven performance escalator kicked in for the final year of rookie Spencer Burford's deal, which made him a little bit more expensive than the 49ers thought was fair, because Burford has not been a standout performer for them. However, he is in the competition to be their swing tackle here in 2025. So let's take a look at over the cap, because this is where this news first surfaced. And I could maybe zoom in here. We'll keep it out here. We can just take a look at Burford's entire contract as it stands right now. Cap number, as you can see over here, is $2.9 million. His old cap hit was actually $3.6 million. So the 49ers have saved $700,000 in 2025 cap space. So what exactly happened? Well, you could see that Spencer Burford's base salary reduced from over $3 million to the veteran minimum of $1.265 million. He also has $510,000 total in per game roster bonus money, and he's got $500,000 in incentives that we do not know the details of, but we'll see if Spencer Burford does earn them. They are likely to be earned because they are reflected in his cap number of $2.9 million. So what happened here is that the proven performance escalator that Spencer Burford received for the amount of snaps that he had as a starter for the 49ers for a large part of the last couple years, that kicked in automatically. But Spencer Burford did not have that as a guarantee. So normally when a player hits the proven performance escalator, which is dictated by the collective bargaining agreement, like when Talanoa Hufanga hit it and his cap hit increased from about $1 million to $3 or $4 million. Well, he was an all-pro player, so the 49ers were happy with that rate, even though it was an increased rate. Here in the case of Spencer Burford, since he's not even in line to start for the 49ers in 2025, but he did hit the escalator. It was one of those unusual situations where both of those things happened to be true. San Francisco said, wait, this escalator doesn't really make that much financial sense, but let's come to Spencer Burford with an offer of guaranteed money. $500,000 of this is now fully guaranteed. And let's lower the cap hit back down to about $2.9 million. So the 49ers were able to go from the old cap hit of $3.6 million to the new cap hit of $2.9 million. They've included some incentives to where Spencer Burford can earn his way to close to the amount of the proven performance escalator, but the base salary here is actually down at the veteran minimum of $1.265 million. So this is all according to Over the Cap. We got the numbers from them. Go visit their website. That is how the new deal for Spencer Burford works. And it's a great opportunity to talk about the 49ers swing tackle competition, because very ironically, Spencer Burford put himself in that escalator conversation with his play at guard. But late last year, when the 49ers were facing big tackle shortages, they moved him out to tackle. He is now an offensive tackle for the 49ers. He played offensive tackle in college at the University of Texas, San Antonio. And I think there is some hope from San Francisco's end that Spencer Burford is going to be better at the tackle position here in the NFL than at the guard position. I think to end last season, there was even some evidence suggesting that that hope may not be unfounded. He played better at tackle than he did at guard. So it was something that probably came as a surprise in the larger picture, because normally you want very specific metrics, like measurables, for to play offensive tackle, to play on the exterior of the line. And although Burford may not have exactly matched those, sometimes guys are just better able to turn it on, more comfortable at the tackle position. And because Burford played that tackle spot in college, maybe that is going to be the case for him. But if we want to look at the 49ers setup right now offensively, let's take a look at the depth chart, because the swing tackle competition is definitely one of the main ones happening over the course of this training camp, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So let's make this big. Let's take this across the whole screen. Offensive line is down here. I just highlighted it so you can see. Trent Williams is your starter at left tackle. Ben Barch, I would expect to see him at some point soon. He's been attacking his rehab aggressively on the side. Didn't see him today, but saw him the previous couple practices for the 49ers. He is the leader in the clubhouse to be the left guard. Center, Jake Brendel. As much as you people are going to complain about Jake Brendel being the starting center, that's how the 49ers view it. Kyle Shanahan, and the 49ers might even think that he was held back a little bit by the knee tendonitis last year. He's had a longer offseason to heal. He spoke to the media today, and I think that he appreciates the longer offseason. Again, I don't know for a fact that his performance, which I think dipped last year, was connected to the knee tendonitis, but I'm trying to put two and two together. And that was something that Jake Brendel was dealing with at this time last year, and then he was not as good in 2024 as he had been in 2022 and 2023. But the 49ers still consider him to be their best option at center. Then you've got Dominic Pooney, who's obviously a good option at right guard, and Colton McKivitz, who had a nice year in 2024. Got a lot better, big-time strides for McKivitz from 23 to 24. And we'll see if there's any contract news on the horizon for Colton McKivitz. I would think that something with Jawan Jennings would be done sooner, but you never know, because McKivitz, like Jennings, underpaid on his current deal entering 2024. So that's your starting five. I know that Barch is going to technically be in a competition with somebody like Nick Zakel, and we'll see what Zach Johnson can do and what Matt Hennessy can do over the rest of training camp. But that, I think this is most likely going to be your starting five for the 49ers. Then the question is, who do they carry to be that all-important backup tackle, the swing tackle on this roster? Andre Dillard, we haven't seen him yet. He is still working off on the side. We saw him with Ben Barch, but he's still on PUP and hasn't taken part in a practice. So the de facto swing tackle at this point has been Spencer Burford, whose contract just got redone according to Over the Cap. The 49ers saved $700,000 in cap space, but Burford does get some guaranteed money. One of the initial reactions that I saw from people online was that, oh, well, they gave Spencer Burford guaranteed money. That must mean that he's won the swing tackle spot. I would predict that Burford will be the 49ers swing tackle based on everything that I've seen so far, based on the fact that I don't even know when Andre Dillard is going to be back. Maybe that's going to be soon. But even though I'd predict that, I don't think the contract and the adjustment that we've seen, the new deal for Spencer Burford, has anything to do with the swing tackle race. I think that's just the 49ers optimizing the efficiency of Burford's contract after that non-guaranteed escalator kicked in. So swing tackle, there's still a lot of training camp. We're only a week into this thing. There still is a long runway for the 49ers to figure this out. For somebody like Andre Dillard to return, to make his case, they do have Austin Pleasance. They do have Sebastian Gutierrez on this team as additional depth at that tackle position. One of the big questions is how many offensive linemen will the 49ers take on their initial 53-man roster? 8 has been the usual number in the past. I could see up to 9. Right here, I've got 9 making the 53-man roster, because I've got Zakel, who's been taking the first team reps instead of Ben Barch while Barch is out, and I've got Connor Colby. But Drew Moss today, he was the first person to stop CJ West in a one-on-one drill. So those of you who are big Drew Moss fans, the undrafted rookie out of Colorado State, he could force his way into the conversation. And Colby is not guaranteed anything. He's a 7th-round pick, right? When you look at a pick, maybe 4th round and above, you say, okay, that guy's probably going to have a chance to, showcase his abilities. That's a little bit longer than somebody in the 7th round or an undrafted free agent. So that 4th rounder, you could say probably guaranteed of a roster spot, not completely guaranteed, but partially guaranteed a roster spot. Somebody picked in the 7th round. You can't say that about that player, right? It's just the cost of doing business in the NFL draft. Somebody picked a little bit later. They're going to be skating on thin ice from the very beginning, which makes the Brock Purdy ascension from the 7th round and pick number 262 to the 53-man roster in 2022, to the starting position, to stardom, to MVP finalist status in 2023, even after the torn elbow. That makes that story absolutely wild. But we cannot assume that every 7th-round pick is going to make it. So there's going to be a battle. There is a battle happening right now. Connor Colby, Drew Moss, both looking for a roster spot, but that is the interior line. When we talk about tackles, it's Williams, McKivitz, Spencer Burford, Andre Dillard, Austin Pleasance, and Sebastian Gutierrez. Those are the offensive tackles on the 49ers roster as we speak. And those guys, their job is to hold off the edge rushers long enough to set this guy right here, Brock Purdy, up to throw it deep. And of course, we saw Brock Purdy throwing it deep with plenty of time. We'll put it on the screen one more time. There was enough time here, thanks to the offensive line, for Purdy to take a step up in the pocket, an extra hitch, and uncork a perfect deep pass to this guy. That is Jordan Watkins. Now, Purdy did that. I wrote this, and part of what I wrote in the article was Brock Purdy in 2023 had the 2nd highest completion percentage in all of football, the entire NFL, on throws that traveled more than 20 yards in the air. He completed nearly 59% of his passes before the playoffs started that year, and we know it's tougher in the playoffs for obvious reasons, but before the playoffs started, Purdy had been the only quarterback in like 20 years, and PFF's documentation of this stat, completion percentage on throws of over 20 yards, he'd been the only qualifying quarterback over 60% in the regular season. So he was special when it came to the long passes downfield in 2023. He ranked number 2, including the playoffs in 23. In 24, Purdy, despite the fact that the 49ers had so many problems around him, dropped only to number 8. He was still a top 10 quarterback in terms of deep completion percentage, throws of 20 or more yards. So my take is simple. You've just got to get open for Brock Purdy, and you've got to give him enough time to throw, and he's going to shred you downfield. He's been there. He's done that. The 49ers paid him. I mean, the debate about whether or not Brock Purdy is a good quarterback amongst legitimate voices in football, amongst people who know what they're talking about, is far, far in the rearview mirror. There might be some talking head shows that still belabor the point and belabor the debate that's had its expiration date a long time ago, but they are irrelevant at this point. They are what Brock Purdy used to be as pick number 262, Mr. Irrelevant. The relevant topic now is, how do the 49ers build this infrastructure from both the receiver room and the line to make sure that Purdy has ample opportunity to make the throws that he's already demonstrated success with downfield. And one of the biggest keys, because it was the biggest weakness for the 49ers offensively last year, is finding more separation downfield. The 49ers ranked all the way down to the bottom of the league in average separation at the time of catch or incompletion in 2024. They ranked number 11 in 2023. So you could see the huge chasm from number 11 to number 32. Why did it happen? Well, Ayuk got hurt. McCaffrey got hurt. Everything tumbled for the 49ers. They didn't run the football nearly as well on first down, so guys weren't able to be, spring open the way that they normally would against defenses that are a little bit more geared to stop the run. But I think that one of the big picture deficiencies that the 49ers had is that they didn't have that true field stretching speed. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, they had Jacob Cowing. I don't think that Jacob Cowing was ready for a big snap load yet. He still needed to add some more muscle. I think Cowing has put in some great work over the course of this 2025 offseason. I think that right now he still has to come back from the hamstring injury, so this is going to be delayed a bit. He's absolutely going to be a contender for the speed role that the 49ers need. But I also think that we need to focus on who the 49ers have available right now, who's at practice right now, who caught the deep pass from Brock Purdy today, and that is the rookie Jordan Watkins. In case we need a refresher, and maybe we do, let's go to the relative athletic score that Watkins put up at the NFL Combine this year, where he really knocked the 49ers socks off with his performance. Here is the relative athletic score for Jordan Watkins. As you can see, there is no data for agility testing in the bottom right, but we have the speed grade here. And he's a 4.37 guy, and I think he plays like it. You saw him run behind Jason Pinnock and Darrell Luter Jr. on that big pass. The 20-yard split is also elite. Anything shaded in green is elite here. The 10-yard split at 1.53, that's cooking as well. The explosion stuff is good here in the bottom left, too. 36.5-inch vertical, broad jump of over 9 feet, nearly 10 feet for Jordan Watkins. So that's good. The speed is great, and it seems to translate to the football field. Well, what's his weakness? The tail of the tape will tell you size. 5'11", 196. He's not a 6'2 guy. He's not a 6'4 guy like his teammate now, Isaiah Neyor, but he can obviously run. In fact, he's even faster than Isaiah Neyor, who was clocked at that 4.40 40. Maybe Nair's better off the first 10 yards. We'll see. I think that his 10-yard split actually got misreported. Mike was telling me that it might actually be under a 1.5 for Isaiah Neyor, which is absolutely insane. But the point is that Jordan Watkins can fly. The point is that he was very productive in college at Ole Miss, and he could potentially stretch the defense in the way that the 49ers offense was sorely missing when that separation grade was terrible back in 2024. So look out for this guy, because our first look at him has been impressive indeed. I mean, we were talking about Jordan Watkins in OTAs. We've been talking about him now through a week of training camp. We saw his biggest catch today. And one thing that I wrote about up on the Standard, which I think is worth mentioning because we can't have short-term memory loss here. If you look at today's article, right? Brock Purdy may have a new deep threat, 49ers rookie wide receiver Jordan Watkins. Well, let's click on yesterday's article, and it's Brock Purdy becomes a dad, returns the dazzle at 49ers training camp. Now let's scroll down a little bit, and let's see the featured play that I was talking about. The featured play that I was talking about is going to be highlighted in this part of the article. I'm going to make it bigger so you can read it. But Purdy's best play Monday came as he sprinted to his right away from the 49ers pass rush. The defense figured he'd simply throw the ball away, but suddenly Purdy uncorked a laser toward the middle of the field. It surprised even veteran receiver Demarcus Robinson, who initially thought it was an inaccurate pass intended for him. It was actually a perfect throw to rookie Jordan Watkins, who caught the ball in stride and reversed field on the unsuspecting defense. Okay, so we can talk about a play like this over and over again, and it's aesthetically extremely pleasing. It's a deep pass from Brock Purdy to Jordan Watkins. I absolutely get it. But do not forget what I wrote yesterday and what I just read to you. The deep pass was scripted. That was probably first read stuff from Brock Purdy to Jordan Watkins. He cooked the defense. He caught the football. Purdy threw a great ball, a great deep ball. Awesome. Everything is good. 2 thumbs up across the board today for Purdy and Watkins. But I think actually what happened yesterday and the play that I just described is more notable. Why? Because quarterbacks typically aren't supposed to throw back across the grain. Coaches hate it. Purdy has an exception because he's Brock Purdy and he has made his living doing some of that stuff. And Kyle Shanahan has gone, no. Yes. That happened against Jacksonville when Purdy rolled out and then threw back across the field to the end zone, and Brandon Ayuk caught the touchdown. So Purdy has a little bit more leeway when it comes to throws like that. So Purdy making that throw back across the field, knowing full well how dangerous that can be, but making that throw perfectly, hitting the receiver in stride. That receiver, the fact that he was Jordan Watkins is not insignificant. That means that Purdy has actual off-schedule rapport with Jordan Watkins. I mean, it's one thing to do something where the guy is a primary read on the play, where everything is drawn up. You step up in the pocket with good protection and you hit him downfield. That's one thing, and it was impressive for a number of reasons. But it's an entirely different animal when you are finding a receiver on a play that coaches typically advise against. Throw him back across the field, a play that is extremely risky, extremely improvisational, and the receiver happens to be in the right spot. He is sensed where he needs to be based on what's happening. The pass rush flushed Brock Purdy out of the pocket, and Brock Purdy can trust him to be in that spot. That is a whole different level of communication that I think is much more significant to note than today's deep pass. So they're both good, and they both happen on successive days, and they both signify that Jordan Watkins is becoming more and more of a trusted lieutenant for Brock Purdy, which is going to be huge for him to earn some playing time here in his rookie seasons. Because even if you can run like the wind, if you cannot deliver off schedule with a quarterback, if you don't have that feel for getting open with a particular QB, you're going to be a waste of space on that field. We've seen so many guys in the history of the NFL run 4.3s like every other receiver that the Raiders have ever drafted, right? Can run a 4.3, maybe even a 4.2, but then isn't really effective out on the football field because the nuances of the game are not meshing with what the offense needs to run, with what the quarterback needs on the other end. We've seen signs so far that Jordan Watkins might fit what Brock Purdy needs in that regard. And then we saw him blow the top off the defense. But it's kind of like on the defensive side, it doesn't matter how good of a pass rusher you are if your defense can't stop the run. If you can't get to the deep pass setups, and the only way that you set up a deep pass is if you're able to execute on some of the shorter stuff and some of the intermediate stuff and some of the off-schedule stuff that works with all that. If you can't build the bricks underneath the 50-yard bomb, that 50-yard bomb is never going to have the platform from which to dive, right? And I think that it's still too early to know for sure if Jordan Watkins is going to be legit, but the signs so far early in this training camp have been really promising for the reasons that I just outlined. So anyway, I wrote all about this. It is up on the San Francisco Standard. This is yesterday's article from Purdy. Now this is today's article. We've got to open it up. There you go. Brock Purdy may have a new deep threat. 49ers rookie Jordan Watkins. I'm trying to become much better about putting these in the comment section and pinning it at the top. I know that Mike has tossed this into the description for the time being. As soon as this show is over and it's uploaded, I can also toss this into the comment section, and it's going to be all pinned up there, and it will be ready to go, ready for you guys to all watch. But I think that Watkins has definitely been one of the 49ers' pleasant surprises so far. What we're going to do tomorrow, since it's an off day, we're going to talk a lot about the unheralded 49ers players. Who is surprising that you haven't necessarily heard of? Because there's so many storylines that we can go through during the course of training camp. I mean, it's a 90-man roster, and there's more happening than even that. And I think that a lot of times, right when we come off the field for our instant reaction, like we did today, make sure to go check that out. We're going to talk about the biggest stories, the stuff that just popped out to us. And that's the way that we should do it, because that is the headlining news. But then we have a little bit more time, especially when these off days hit, to get deeper into the nitty gritty. Where are the 49ers struggling? Where are they succeeding that you might not notice on first look if you just take a look at headlines? And the good news is that we have this massive roster to account for. The good news is that I never run out of things to talk about when it comes to the 49ers. I could sit here forever and discuss them. So You could look up and down this San Francisco roster, and we could talk about Mac Jones and Tanner Mordecai. It's not much of a battle. Mac Jones is the QB2 for the 49ers, who I think has actually looked good for San Francisco over the course of this first week. He's got some really nice touch on his throws. We can then go into the nitty-gritty of the running back position. Well, I think Corey Kiner, has run the ball well, but there's some question about his hand size and how ball security is going to work when live tackling starts happening. So we'll see how that goes. I think he did fine in college, but it's going to be a whole different beast with the attention to detail in the NFL. We've talked about receivers so much. I can keep on talking about it over the course of this off day, but you could see all of the movement in that room and all the injury shading for the 49ers. So you get where I'm going here. I mean, every single one of these position groups has storylines more than in years prior because the 49ers have run a little bit of a roster reset, especially on the defensive side. So the competition is now roaring. The pads came on to much fanfare yesterday, and I think they lived up to everybody's expectations when we got to see CJ West and company. And now with that day off, Ricky Pearsall can take a little bit of a rest. Mykel Williams could take a little bit of a rest, and we will see what is next. Mykel Williams, by the way, I know we said Mykel Williams camp news. He missed today's practice with an ankle issue. They say it's minor. They have today off for Mykel now, and they've got tomorrow off. We'll see if he is back out at practice for the 49ers on Thursday. It's going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, day off Sunday, and I think the 49ers are going to be back in action on Monday, and then it is officially Broncos week for San Francisco. All right, we got a good 49ers Q&A for you right now. Let's hit it. I'm going to head into the comments section. I'm going to answer as many questions as I possibly can, as many good questions as I possibly can. Somebody's complaining about Eli Apple. If you are complaining about the 49ers signing a camp body, you need to reevaluate how you're thinking about football because you are way too stressed out, bro. You are way too stressed out. This literally back of the roster camp edition, somebody that the 49ers needed to plug and play now. Every single team around the league is operating its training camp like this. They're finding guys to sign who aren't currently with teams, and they aren't necessarily expecting that player to make the 53-man roster or even the practice squad. And if that is your worry right now, you have lost all perspective of how this training camp operates, or maybe you never had it to begin with, but you can heed my words right now. Chill out. I've seen so many comments complaining about this signing in the last couple of days, and it's like every single time I see it, I'm like, oh, there's somebody who doesn't understand football. There's somebody who doesn't understand training camp. And, you know, the reason that I don't have like that much tolerance for it is that I've explained it like 5 times. We have reaction videos to all these signings. We explain strategically what the 49ers are doing. So acting like they signed Eli Apple to be a starter, even though you have plenty of information out there on this channel showing you why exactly they signed him, and still continuing to believe that it's some kind of big problem that they signed him, and continuing to think that they signed him to be a huge piece, that's on you. That's no longer on me. That's no longer on the 49ers. That's on you. You take the information and process it, please, because these complaints are getting tiresome. As Mike said, there are 2,880 players at least, right? There's probably even more, including the injuries. There's probably over 3,000 players on a roster right now. So when you're adding a camp body, right now, like it is slim pickings right now. The pickings become much more abundant once 1,000+ players are cut around the league because of the 53-man cut down. When you got to go from 90 to 53, then all of a sudden you got a bunch of guys either on waivers and you could claim them there, or a bunch of guys who are free agents. So right now you're just trying to get through the dog days. And the dog days, I think, have officially begun. It's not August yet, but the dog days are, once you hit that second block of practices, especially the third, and the third is going to start on Thursday. Those are the dog days. That's when you're battling health issues, right? Hamstring injuries. You're battling just the difficulty of going through a lot of these practices where it's just so hot outside. I think that we got a reprieve on the weather for the first few days. Not anymore. It's starting to get hot out there in Santa Clara. You're just trying to make it through. And to make it through the intensity of camp, you're going to need players at the back end of the roster, just the way that it is. You're not going to bring in a starter at this point of the cycle. I mean, it would be a miracle if you were able to do that. So hopefully people can start understanding how training camp and these rosters actually work. You'll be smarter if you heed the information that I'm trying to give you. Yes, this is 49ers talk for adults. You're going to be a child about it, you can go elsewhere. We only want the adults here, or the mature. We want the mature youngsters here. We don't want a situation where we're dealing with people crying after every single 49ers camp body signing, because that just gets tiresome. All right. I am waiting for some good questions. This is a good one. What's the count when it goes down to 53 plus the practice squad? Well, that's 53 plus 16, right? Plus your international exceptions, that's 70 players. You essentially will have 70 active players in the building at any given time. But once the cut down happens, PUP and IR, like IR doesn't exist right now, at least for players that you want to come back. They put Teron Jackson on IR, but they would have to waive him and he'd have to clear waivers to play for the 49ers this year. But during the regular season, once IR starts existing and once the PUP list moves to reserve list, those numbers don't count against the larger roster. Right now they do. So right now, everybody on PUP and NFI, all of those guys are counting toward the 90. Once it cuts down to 53 plus 16 plus 1, which equals 70, PUP doesn't count. So you got players on PUP and IR even then, once it starts existing, that do not count against the 70. So you could have as many as 80 or 90 in your building, but only 70 on an active roster or a practice squad. Practice squad went up a couple years ago to 16. That was a post-COVID kind of thing. I think 2020 was the year that it went up to 16. Either that or 2021. And that helped teams out a lot, and the NFL decided to make that a permanent change. What do we expect in the 49ers Broncos joint practice next week? Well, I would think that we're going to see a lot of ex-49ers. Just to begin, DJ Jones, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga. There's more than that, but we're going to see at least 3 ex-49ers. We are going to see Sean Payton against the 49ers defense led by Robert Saleh. I think that's going to be it's going to be good kind of scrimmage style atmosphere for San Francisco. We're going to see a young quarterback who in some ways has been compared to Brock Purdy in Bo Nix against the 49ers defense. I think that should be a lot of fun. And we're going to see Purdy and company against what I think is a really good Denver defense. I mean, those guys led the league last year defensively. I think that's going to be a really, really competitive joint practice session. Trent Sherfield and Mike McGlinchey also on the Denver Broncos. So that's like 5 or 6 ex-49ers with Denver. It's a team with whom the 49ers have traded a lot in the past. I know there's different leadership now, but I still remember the Jonas Griffith trade. They traded him to the Broncos. Then he had an interception against the 49ers in that game, ugly Sunday night game at Denver. That was early in the 2022 season. So it's a trade the 49ers had to make, though. They were offered some draft compensation for Jonas Griffith, who wasn't going to start for them, and they made the trade, and then he came back to make a play against them. So there's been some intertwined history between the 49ers and the Broncos here in recent years. It is unclear if Mykel Williams has the ankle issue on the same ankle that he saw the high ankle sprain on at Georgia. We'll know more about that in the coming days. So I'm not going to report that it is the same ankle, but I will tell you that the 49ers are saying that it's minor and it could just be a maintenance thing for Mykel Williams. Just like today was a maintenance day for Ricky Pearsall. So there's no reason to overreact on this front for Mykel Williams missing practice today. George Kittle is looking great. He had the 80-yard touchdown yesterday, catch and run. He can still go from 0 to 60 faster than almost anybody that I have ever seen at 250 plus pounds. And that's the magic of George Kittle, right? He is big, he is strong, but he can accelerate. And that's what differentiates him from a lot of tight ends. 49ers will host the Broncos in Santa Clara on August 7th, and then they'll visit the Raiders for a joint practice exactly a week after that in Henderson, Las Vegas, Henderson. It's the Vegas area, we'll put it that way. The 49ers practiced there a couple years ago. 2023 is when the 49ers practiced with the Raiders in Vegas. Todd says Brock was on track to have 4,300 yards last year as well, but he didn't play the last two games. Yes, and also, I mean, raw yardage is just not a good way to measure things. Like it's not very sophisticated. It's what we used to do. I get it, but just put the advanced stats to the test. And Brock Purdy's been, I mean, he was number 1 in 2023 in QBR. Dropped down to what, number 6, number 7 last year. He's still been playing at a high level, despite the fact that the 49ers around him didn't exactly play at a high level last season. The NFL increased the practice squad size to 16 for the 2020 season. That they did. It was a big deal, and the NFL thankfully has decided to keep that here in 2025. Any updates or takes on the tight end 3 role, Dwelley or Pline? Pline is coming along as a receiver. Dwelley's going to give you the highest floor, right? You know what Dwelley's floor is going to be. Dwelley's not going to give you much of a surprising ceiling at all. You know who Dwelley is. He's been in the league since 2018. So Dwelley is Dwelley. Trusted agent, that's great. Mason Pline just started playing football a few years ago at a higher level. And even then, he was at a lower college level. Former basketball player. I thought that he's made some nice catches at camp. I wouldn't rule out Braden Willis at this point, who has proven to be a nice receiving piece. Like he's won his one-on-one battles. He's made some nice catches for the 49ers at camp. And you can't rule out Jake Tonjes either. You know, the 49ers have some options here at tight end 3. And you know what the big thing for the 49ers is? We are not talking about tight end 2 right now. This is a battle for 3, which I think is a big distinction. 2 is settled. Luke Farrell is there. They missed the consistency of a good blocking tight end 2 last year. So Farrell is in that position. Nobody's taken tight end 2 away from him. Kittle's obviously 1. So the fact that the nexus of focus here has moved from tight end 2 to tight end 3, I think is a really big deal for the 49ers. That they've upgraded at tight end 2 significantly. Tight end 3, that's more like icing on the cake. Then you start discussing, do they take 3 or do they take 4 bodies at the position? Because they've taken 4 most years in the past, but maybe the roster is so crowded and they want to preserve competition elsewhere to the level where they only take 3 plus the practice squad this year. That's going to be the big question. But I think that Dwelley is your floor answer. Pline might be the ceiling answer, but floor is going to matter as well. And you can't forget about somebody like Jake Tonjes in that tight end room. And you can't forget about somebody like Braden Willis either, because he's made some nice catches for the 49ers. Any more questions? Oh, this is a good one. Don't forget that Dwelley can play fullback. Yes. Dwelley at fullback gives the 49ers some operational flexibility in case Kyle Juszczyk gets hurt. So that positional versatility that Dwelley has shown in the past might give him a leg up in that tight end 3 competition. And I also think at 3, unless somebody's giving you wildly high ceiling, tight end 3 is more of a floor position, right? You want that roster spot to be a utility spot, somebody you can plug into multiple positions. So that might give Dwelley a leg up. I think this is actually a really, really good point that we shouldn't ignore. Does Juice look slimmer or is it just me? Asks Mike. I know Trent Williams looks slimmer. I'm not sure about Juszczyk. I'll ask him if he decided to cut a few pounds. Kyle is usually really honest with that kind of stuff. See if he's trying to get an edge here toward, I mean, I don't want to say toward the end of his career because Juszczyk is a guy that might play forever. I mean, he hadn't slowed down one bit, but the game has evolved, and maybe since he's generally taken on smaller defenders blocking wise, he figured it would make sense to cut some weight so he could have a little bit more speed to try to beat players on the receiving game end. So it's a good question. We'll find out here. This is a good one. The narrative that Brock wasn't that good last year, hasn't watched the tape. The defense couldn't get off the field. Offensive time of possession dropped a lot. You can't produce when you're not playing. I think that's a good point. I also think that the separation was way down. I think that the rushing effectiveness was way down. Hey, the best way to measure Brock Purdy and his play last year, if you want to quantify it, is QBR. That's the stat that's most effectively going to isolate quarterback play from everything else. Is it perfect? No, because it's impossible to isolate quarterback play from everything else. It's a team sport. But just look at the QBR and tell me you see Brock Purdy in the bottom half of the league, because you can't. He's not. He was still in the top 7 last year. He was number 1 in 2023. Every single quantifiable statistic from an efficiency standpoint, Brock Purdy ranked really, really well in that 2024 season. So when we separate facts and feelings, the facts fall on the side of Brock Purdy still had a really good year. And obviously the 49ers' reaction to the year, they gave him the massive contract extension. I think that their reaction also tells you what Kyle Shanahan, who knows offense a lot better than any of us, thinks. So just take that information and use it wisely. How confident would I be in Upton Stout against Y receivers? Well, I think that Upton is going to be facing all different kinds of receivers. By the way, the Y is normally a tight end. I don't know if he's going to be facing are you trying to say X receivers or Z receivers? Just leave out the letter. Let's leave out the letter because that's going to confuse people a little too much. Upton Stout is going to play in the slot if he starts for the 49ers. And he's going to have to face a wide variety of different types of receivers because offenses are going to try to create mismatches, especially when they see that he's 5'8". I saw him against a 6'1" Ricky Pearsall the other day play much taller than 5'8". He can get off the ground. He can time things right. He's shown the ability to do that in college. He's showing it on the field in training camp now. How well is he going to pick up the playbook? That's probably a bigger question for Upton Stout. But the guy plays larger than his size. He's defied odds at every step so far, and we'll see if he can defy the odds now at the NFL level. When do I think the first team will get some reps in the preseason? I wonder if they're probably going to run week 3 as a real dress rehearsal because they don't have the week 4 game anymore. That was when the first team didn't play at all. So I think they'll still run week 3 as a dress rehearsal, and they'll have a series or 2 in week 2. That's how Shanahan has normally done it. So I wouldn't expect to see him against the Broncos. And, maybe because they're doing a joint practice against the Raiders, we don't see him there much either. Maybe we don't see him for or maybe we just see him for the one drive that we do in week 2. But the joint practice might throw things off. Shanahan doesn't usually like to run a joint practice and then also play the game with the starters. And obviously he's going to prefer the joint practice over the game itself. But I think week 3, Chargers, you don't have a joint with them. And with the Chargers, that falls right in line with where you run your dress rehearsal in the preseason. So I think that would make a lot of sense. Is CJ West carving a role for himself on the first team defense? I think it's still too early to say that, but what I do see right now is that West has surprised a lot of people with just how strong he is. And I think that fits really well as far as transitioning from college to the NFL, that you don't really have to develop the strength. It's already there. You're going to have to develop some of the nuances. That's fair. I think that, and he's not playing the same position as Alfred Collins. Collins is more of a 3 tech. West is a 1 tech. So they're different competitions for both of those guys as far as earning playing time. I would say that Kevin Gibbons is going to be your likely week 1 starter at defensive tackle instead of Alfred Collins. But I think that CJ West is your likely one technique starter instead of somebody like Evan Anderson or San Francisco in a base 4-down package. That's just how I read it right now. It's only July 29th, though. We're still a month away from the 49ers jerseys coming out. That's on August 28th. So we have a long time, and the cut down is after that. I mean, the cut down's at the end of August, right? So maybe even the start of September. That's all going to be a big deal. I can't wait to delve into all of that, but I know that we still have a month of practice and preseason games to determine how that pecking order is going to work. I would say that West has a better chance to start right at the start than Alfred Collins, and I know that Mykel Williams is going to start opposite Nick Bosa in the base package. Am I ready for some football? Yes. Yes, I am. I'm very ready for some football. All right, guys, that was a fun show. We went through everything, including the redone contract for Spencer Burford, saves the 49ers some cap room, gives Burford some more guarantees, talked the swing tackle competition, and of course, Jordan Watkins and the deep threat for Brock Purdy. Why, yes. Thanks for asking about it. I think that you should read about it up on the San Francisco Standard. Here you go. Watkins and the deep threat for Purdy. Beautiful stuff today on the 50-plus yard catch. Will throw and catch and run from Purdy to Watkins to the end zone. That happened today at 49ers practice. Everybody, thanks for watching. Go ahead and check out the article. Sign up for the Standard. Hit the notification bell right now. All this best 40, we're doing crazy numbers. The best 49ers content is coming through here. So if you hit that notification bell, you will get access to that content sooner than everyone else. Everybody, thanks for watching. It's been fun. We will talk to you very soon.